William Porter sat straight in his chair in the big room of the Galactic Council. His face showed no emotion as aliens said mean things across the large black table. The Arcturian group called humans violent primitives for the third time today. The Vega Collective members whispered to each other, their eye stalks turning with dislike toward the human group. 3 years of talks. 3 years of humans giving in to meet the demands of alien races who had faster-than-light travel, hundreds of years before Earth had even found electricity. 3 years of offering to give things up and getting only scorn back. The human group has again failed to understand proper diplomacy, said Ambassador Trellax of the Brunari hegemony. Her see-through skin glowed with purple light that meant she felt smug. Their wish to keep their own military forces shows they are savage. William stayed calm, though his helper, Samantha Collins, could see his knuckles turning white as he held his data device tightly. The Galactic Council wanted Earth to get rid of all weapons, to trust in the protection of aliens who had spent the last 3 years treating humans like children or animals. The United Earth government has given up 17 major things during these talks, William said, his voice steady and formal. We have agreed to limits on where we can go in space, rules on our AI growth, and very high taxes on what we sell. We cannot and will not give up our basic right to protect ourselves. Ambassador Kazit of the Helix Dominion made a clicking sound, with his mouth parts that the translation computer said was laughter. Protect yourselves? Your kind has spent most of its history fighting each other. We are keeping the galaxy safe from you. William stood up slowly, picking up his things with care. Samantha followed him, looking confused. Ambassador Porter? Asked Gall 7, the Council's mediator, its jelly-like body moving with worry. The human group is leaving the peace talks right now, William said, his voice echoing in the suddenly quiet room. For 3 years we have put up with being looked down on, crazy demands and barely hidden threats. Earth will find its own way among the stars. Gasps and whispers broke out across the room. Many alien species began talking at once, their translation, devices making a loud mix of protests and threats. As William and Samantha walked toward the door, Ambassador Trellax called out, "You cannot live without the Council's protection. There are dangers in this galaxy you cannot understand." William stopped at the doorway, turning slightly. Maybe. But we've faced threats that could kill us all before, and we've lived through them all, without help. He nodded shortly. Good day. The doors closed behind them with a firm sound. Back on the human ship, Samantha finally spoke. "Sir, what did we just do?" William looked tired but sure of himself as he sat down. "What we should have done 2 years ago, Sam. We stopped pretending. The Council will see this as rebellion," she said, worried. "They control most trade routes, most advanced technology, most everything. They control most of everything for races that play by their rules," William agreed. "We've been trying to play their game, but they keep changing the rules for us. It's time to play our own game." Captain Diane Miller entered the ship's meeting room. "Ambassador, we've received a message from Council Security. We have 6 hours to leave Council space. After that, we'll be considered trespassers." William nodded. "Set course for Earth, Captain. Maximum speed." "Yes, sir." "And, sir?" "For what it's worth, the crew stands with you. We've all seen how they treat us." When the captain left, Samantha sat across from William. "What will happen when we get home?" "War planning," William said simply. "The Council won't attack right away. They'll try to starve us out first. Cut off trade, try to turn any friendly aliens against us. They think we'll come back begging in a few months. And if we don't?" William's eyes looked far away. "Then they'll try to force us back in line. That's when we'll find out if humanity made the right choice today." 3 weeks later, William stood before the United Earth Senate. The room was packed, with government officials, military leaders, and news reporters. President Laura Kendrick sat in the front row, her face giving away nothing. "After 3 years of unfair treatment, impossible demands, and growing threats, I chose to withdraw Earth from the Galactic Council peace talks," William said, his voice firm. "I did this without asking for permission first. If the Senate decides this was wrong, I will step down at once, Senator Carlos Diaz leaned forward. Ambassador Porter, before we judge your actions, tell us one thing. Do you believe this was the only option? William took a deep breath. Yes, Senator, I do. The Council was never going to accept us as equals. To them, we are too young, too dangerous, too human. They wanted to control us until we became something else, something they approved of. Senator June Wilson frowned. They have ships that could destroy our cities from orbit. They have weapons we can barely understand. How can we possibly stand against them? The same way humans have always stood against greater powers, William replied, with courage, creativity, and stubborn refusal to give up. We are not as weak as they think we are. President Kendrick stood up. The room went quiet. 3 days. Ago, I received messages from the Solazari Confederation and the Dramari Trading Group. Both have offered to continue relations with Earth, outside of Council rules. It seems we already have some friends out there. She walked to the center of the room. I have reviewed Ambassador Porter's actions and the full record of the Council talks. The Senate may decide differently, but my decision is this. William Porter acted in Earth's best interests. He has my full support, and I am naming him as our first independent Galactic Affairs Director to help guide us through what comes next. The room broke into loud debate. William sat down, feeling the weight of 3 years of tough talks finally lift from his shoulders. Now a new weight took its place, the future of humanity among the stars. So, Samantha said quietly beside him, what happens now? William watched as the Senate began voting on emergency defense measures, research funding, and new diplomatic missions. Now, he said, we show the galaxy who humans really are. The United Earth Government War Room was busy with activity. Fleet Admiral Olivia Chen looked at the display showing Earth's defenses, her face serious but determined. The Galactic Council has officially called Earth a rogue planet. Defense, Secretary Mason Jones said, sliding a datapad across the table. They have put a complete trade ban on us. No Council species will trade with us, help us with technology, or offer any kind of aid. President Laura Kendrick nodded slowly, her gray eyes looking around the room. We expected this. What is our status? Project Bulwark is ahead of schedule, General Richard Martinez reported. The planet shield grid will be working in 6 months. Our shipyards on Mars and Europa are working 3 times as hard, focusing on defense platforms and stealth ships. And Project Prometheus? The president asked quietly. Admiral Chen touched her control panel, and the display changed to show plans for a new kind of warship. The first 5 ships will be done in 8 months. They use all the technology we learned about during our time, with the Council races plus some new ideas of our own. The Galactic Council thinks we will come crawling back within a year, Secretary Jones said. Their experts predict our economy will fall apart without access to space trade. President Kendrick allowed herself a small smile. They still don't understand humans very well, do they? What about our diplomatic efforts with non-Council species? Ambassador Porter, now serving as Earth's independent diplomatic leader, cleared his throat. The Dramari Trading Group has quietly agreed to continue doing business through middlemen. They never liked the Council's monopoly practices. The Solazari, being outcasts themselves, are willing to share some of their defense technology in exchange for Earth artwork and music. And intelligence? The president pressed. The director of intelligence, Elaine Baker, stepped forward. The Council is divided on how to handle the human problem. Most want to wait us out, but the Helix Dominion is pushing for a more aggressive approach. They have been moving military assets in the general direction of our solar system. President Kendrick stood walking slowly around the table. For hundreds of years, humanity dreamed of making contact with alien civilizations. We imagined a grand alliance of species working together for the good of all. She paused, looking at each person in the room. Reality was different. But if there's one thing humans are good at, it's adapting. If the galaxy won't accept us as equals, we'll make them respect us as competitors. And if they decide to eliminate the competition, General Martinez asked soberly. The president's expression hardened. Then they'll learn why every invasion, force in human history eventually discovered the same truth. We are most dangerous when backed into a corner. 6 months passed. The planetary shield grid was nearly complete. Earth's first true space warships were taking shape in the shipyards of Mars. William Porter stood at the window of his office, looking out at the busy streets of New Geneva. Despite the trade ban, despite the threats from space, life on Earth continued. Humans adapted as they always had. His assistant, Samantha Collins, entered with a data pad. "Sir, we've detected unusual movement from the Helix Dominion fleet near the Proxima Centauri border." William frowned. "Analysis?" "Military intelligence believes they're preparing for some kind of operation, possibly against us." William nodded. He wasn't surprised. Of all the council races, the Helix had been the most openly hostile toward humans. "Have they shared this with the president?" "Yes, sir. She's called an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. You're requested to attend." An hour later, William sat in the Defense Council chamber as Admiral Chen presented the latest intelligence. "The Helix Dominion has assembled a battle group consisting of 3 cruisers and several smaller vessels," she said, pointing to the display showing their position. "They are currently at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Based on their movement patterns and energy signatures, we believe they are preparing for a jump to the Sol system." "Target?" President Kendrick asked. "Most likely the Mars shipyards," General Martinez answered. "That's where most of our new defense fleet is being built." "Capabilities?" Admiral Chen's face was grim. "Their ships outclass anything we have, with the possible exception of the 2 Prometheus vessels that are completed. Their weapons are more advanced, their shields are stronger, and they have far more combat experience." "Options?" the president asked simply. "We could try to negotiate," suggested Secretary of State Alan Fisher. "Offer some concessions to buy more time." William shook his head. "The Helix don't respect negotiation unless it's from a position of strength. Any attempt to talk now would be seen as weakness." "We could evacuate the Mars shipyards," offered another official. "Save the personnel at least." "And lose 6 months of work?" General Martinez shook his head. "That would set us back years." Admiral Chen cleared her throat. "There is another option. Operation Hornet's Nest." The room went silent. Operation Hornet's Nest was considered a last resort, a high-risk plan that could either save Earth or doom it. "Explain," the president commanded. "We've spent the last 6 months placing seemingly innocent communication satellites and navigation beacons throughout the solar system," Admiral Chen said. "They appear non-threatening on sensors, but each contains offensive capabilities. Meanwhile, our 2 completed Prometheus ships, Defiant and Intrepid, have been outfitted with the stealth technology we acquired from the Solazari." She brought up a new display showing the planned positions. "We allow the Helix fleet to enter the system thinking we're unprepared. When they move to attack Mars, we spring the trap. The satellites launch swarms of micromissiles. The defense platforms around Mars target their critical systems, and our ships hit them from behind." "It's risky," General Martinez admitted. "But it might be our best chance to show the Council that humanity isn't as helpless as they think." President Kendrick was quiet for a long moment, weighing the options. Finally, she looked around the table. "We didn't ask for this fight. We tried for 3 years to find a peaceful place among the stars. But if the Helix Dominion wants to test Earth's resolve, they'll find we're ready." She turned to Admiral Chen. "Implement Operation Hornet's Nest, and may God help us all." As William left the meeting, Samantha caught up with him in the hallway. "Do you think it will work, sir?" William looked at his young assistant, seeing the worry in her eyes. "I don't know, but I do know this. Throughout human history, we've faced enemies who thought themselves superior. Technology isn't everything. Strategy matters. Will matters. And no species in the galaxy has more practice at warfare than humanity. That's not something to be proud of," Samantha said quietly. "No," William agreed, "but right now it might be something that saves us." Above them in the night sky, stars twinkled peacefully. But somewhere out there, ships were moving toward Earth, carrying aliens who thought humans were easy prey. They were about to learn otherwise. The attack came sooner than expected. Not a full invasion, but a strike meant to force Earth back to the negotiating table on the Council's terms. A Helix Dominion battle group, made up of 3 cruisers and their escort ships, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They were heading for the Mars shipyards where most of Earth's new defense fleet was being built. What they didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this moment ever since walking away from the Council chambers. Lieutenant Commander Grace Russell sat stiffly in the captain's chair of the EDS Defiant, one of only 2 finished ships from Project Prometheus. The ship was running dark, using a stealth system copied from fragments of Solazari technology. Helix formation matches, standard intimidation tactics, her weapons officer, Lieutenant Paul Winters, reported. They're making no attempt to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming. Pride, Grace muttered. Status of the defense grid. Online and ready, Commander. Mars Colony has turned on their shield dome. The automated defense platforms are tracking the Helix vessels but remain powered down as ordered. Grace touched her communication link. EDS Intrepid, confirm your position. In position and waiting for your command, came the calm voice of Captain Frank Daniels from the Defiant's sister ship. The Helix fleet moved deeper into the system, broadcasting demands for Earth's surrender with each passing minute. Their messages grew more threatening as they approached Mars. They're charging weapons, Lieutenant Winters announced, reading energy buildup matching their main guns. Grace took a deep breath. Execute Operation Hornet's Nest. Across the solar system, dozens of seemingly harmless communication satellites and navigation beacons suddenly activated offensive capabilities, launching swarms of tiny missiles toward the Helix vessels. At the same time, the defense platforms around Mars powered up, targeting the enemy's engines and weapon systems. The Helix commanders, caught completely by surprise, scattered their formation in confusion. That was when the Defiant and Intrepid uncloaked directly behind them, opening fire with weapons that combined Council technology with humanity's centuries of experience in warfare. Target their engines, Grace ordered. Let's make sure they can't run away when things get tough. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. When it was over, 2 Helix cruisers were disabled and drifting. The third was retreating with heavy damage, and their escort vessels had either been destroyed or captured. Grace opened a channel to the lead Helix cruiser. This is Lieutenant Commander Russell of the Earth Defense Ship Defiant. Your vessels have entered Earth space without permission and started hostile action against our colonies. Under galactic law, we have the right to destroy you completely. The Helix commander, his insect-like features twisted with rage and shame, hissed through the translator. The Council will not let this insult stand. You will face the combined might of 17 advanced civilizations. Grace smiled coldly. Maybe. But today you face only us. And today, you lost. Your disabled vessels will be towed to Earth for study. Your crews will be treated according to the very war rules your Council made us sign. When you return to your leaders, deliver this message. Earth is not defenseless, Earth is not afraid, and Earth remembers both its friends and its enemies. As the communication ended, Grace leaned back in her chair, the rush of battle still flowing through her. Humanity had won its first space battle, but she had no illusions. This was just the beginning. Back on Earth, the news of the victory spread quickly. In streets and homes around the world, humans celebrated. But in the United Earth Government War Room, the mood was more cautious. The Helix Dominion will not take this defeat lightly, Admiral Chen said, studying the battle reports. This was supposed to be an easy win for them, a show of force to intimidate us. Instead, they've been humiliated. President Kendrick nodded. What's your assessment of our performance? Better than expected, Admiral Chen admitted. The Solazari stealth technology worked perfectly. Our weapons, while still not as advanced as theirs, proved effective when used with proper tactics, and Operation Hornet's Nest caught them completely off guard. Casualties? The President asked. Minimal on our side. 3 defense platforms. Destroyed. Minor damage to the Mars shield grid, and the Intrepid took a hit to its port side but remains operational. Helix losses were much higher. William Porter, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. This changes everything. Not just militarily, but diplomatically. The council believed we were easy prey. Now they know different. Will this push them toward peace? The president asked. William shook his head. Not yet. The Helix will demand revenge. The hardliners on the council will call for united action against us. But the more moderate voices will start to question whether confrontation is the wisest course. So we should expect more attacks, General Martinez concluded. Yes, William agreed. But not right away, and possibly not from the entire council. They'll need time to debate, to assess what happened here. That gives us time to strengthen our position. President Kendrick turned to Admiral Chen. How soon can we get more Prometheus ships operational? The 3rd and 4th vessels will be ready in 2 months, the 5th and 6th in 4. Accelerate the schedule, the president ordered, and begin work on the next phase. I want options for taking the fight to them if necessary. After the meeting, William walked with the president down the secure hallway. You think it will come to that? He asked. Taking the fight to them? I hope not, she replied. But we need to be ready for anything. The council has underestimated us from the beginning. First diplomatically, now militarily. I want them to understand that continuing that pattern would be a grave mistake. As they reached the end of the hallway, a messenger hurried up to them. Madam President, we're receiving communications from 4 non-council species. They're requesting diplomatic talks with Earth. The president exchanged a look with William. It seems our victory has attracted attention. William smiled slightly. The galaxy is watching to see what happens when someone stands up to the council. They've ruled through intimidation for too long. Set up the diplomatic channels, the president told the messenger. Let's see what our new friends have to say. As they continued walking, William felt a mix of hope and worry. Earth had won a battle, but the war was just beginning. Still, for the first time since leaving the council chambers, he felt certain they had made the right choice. Humanity wouldn't be bullied into submission. They would find their own path among the stars, whether the Galactic Council approved or not. And perhaps, just perhaps, they might change the galaxy for the better in the process. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 17 species shouted over one another, pointing blame in all directions. The defeat of the Helix Dominion's diplomatic enforcement action had shocked the Council deeply. The humans should never have been able to defeat a Helix battle group. Ambassador Kazit chittered angrily. Someone gave them advanced technology. Ambassador Sorella of the Solazari stood, her glowing form shining defiantly. The Solazari, Confederation admits trading with Earth. Unlike the Council, we judge species by their actions, not their age. Traitors, hissed the Helix representative. The Dramari Trading Group also keeps relations with Earth, announced Ambassador Pell, his forearms crossed in a sign of defiance. Their art and culture alone make them valuable trading partners. Gal 7, the Council mediator, pulsed with distress. This meeting must keep order. The human situation needs unified action. Does it? A new voice cut through the chamber. Ambassador Linux of the Arcturian Expanse, known for her anti-human stance, surprised everyone with her next words. My government has changed our position on humanity. Shocked whispers filled the chamber. The humans defeated a stronger force through innovation and smart thinking, she continued. They captured rather than destroyed when possible. They used our own laws rather than ignoring them. Perhaps our judgment has been wrong. The Arcturians fear human revenge, sneered Kazit. The Arcturians recognize potential, Linux corrected sharply. While we argued about whether to accept humans as equals, they developed defenses that canceled our technology advantage. While we dismissed their diplomatic efforts, they formed alliances with non-council species. They've done in 1 year what most species need decades to achieve. Ambassador Trelax of the Brunari hegemony rippled with agitation. What are you suggesting? That we reward their defiance? I am suggesting, Linux replied carefully, that continuing our current approach is not working. The intelligence reports are clear. Earth is rapidly advancing its technology, expanding its alliances, and strengthening its defenses. The time to bring them to heel through fear has passed. So we surrender to primitives? Kizit demanded. Adapt, Linux responded. The Arcturian expanse is formally withdrawing from the Earth trade ban. We will be sending a diplomatic mission to establish direct relations. The chamber erupted once more. The Brinari and Helix representatives threatened penalties against the Arcturians. 3 more species announced they too would recognize Earth's independence. The Vega Collective declared they would stay neutral. As the council split along new lines, a junior assistant hurried into the chamber, approaching Gal 7 with obvious fear. The mediator received the message, its jelly-like form turning pale. Silence. Gal 7's voice boomed with unusual force. This council is now closed due to an emergency. The harvesters have been detected entering council space near the Cygnus arm. A horrified hush fell over the chamber. The harvesters? Whispered Ambassador Pell. But they're not due for another 100 years. Nevertheless, they are here. Gal 7 replied grimly. And they are heading directly for the Sol system. 2 days later, William Porter sat in an emergency meeting on Earth, facing representatives from 6 alien species, including, surprisingly, the Arcturians and the Brinari. The harvesters are the greatest threat known to spacefaring life, explained Ambassador Linux. They appear every few centuries, moving through sections of the galaxy like a plague. They consume all organic matter on a planet, strip it of valuable minerals and move on. And they're heading for Earth because, Admiral Chen asked. 2 reasons, replied the Brinari Ambassador Trellax, her translucent skin now pulsing with concerned blue light. First, your rapid technological growth created a beacon that attracted their attention. Second, Earth sits at a strategic point. In space they use for faster travel. How much time do we have? Asked President Kendrick. 3 weeks at most, said Gal 7, who had come personally to Earth. The first time a council mediator had ever visited a non-member world. We have already begun mobilizing the combined fleet, but we need Earth's help. William couldn't hide his surprise. You need our help? After treating us like children for 3 years? The harvesters adapt quickly to known weapons and tactics, explained Ambassador Linux. Your unconventional approaches may be effective where our standard methods fail. The Prometheus ships, in particular, have stealth capabilities that could prove valuable. President Kendrick leaned forward. And what does the Council offer in return for our help? Gal 7 rippled uncomfortably. This is not a negotiation, Madam President. The harvesters threaten all life. Everything is a negotiation, the President replied calmly. 3 years of peace talks taught us that. If we are to risk our ships and our people, we need assurances. The alien representatives exchanged glances. Finally, Gal 7 spoke. What do you propose? Full membership in the Galactic Council with equal voting rights, immediate end to all trade restrictions, technology exchange programs without the usual new species limitations, and recognition of Earth's right to maintain its own defense forces. Impossible, sputtered the Helix representative. No species has ever received such terms. No species has ever been treated as unfairly as humanity, William countered. And no species has ever proven themselves capable of defeating your warships with inferior technology and fewer numbers. Ambassador Linux raised a hand for calm. The Council cannot make such decisions quickly. We need time, which we don't have, interrupted Admiral Chen. The harvesters are 3 weeks away. President Kendrick stood. Let me be clear. Earth will fight the harvesters regardless of your decision. We don't abandon others to face extinction, even those who have not treated us well. But after the threat is dealt with, we will remember who stood with us as equals and who did not. Gal 7's form rippled as it processed this statement. I will take your terms to an emergency session of the Council. But understand this. The harvester threat is real and terrible. No civilization has ever faced them alone and survived. After the aliens had left, William stayed behind with the President and Admiral Chen. Do you think they'll agree? Admiral Chen asked. Some will, some won't, William replied. The Arcturians already seem to be changing their position. Others will be harder to convince. And the harvesters? The president asked. Are they as dangerous as described? William's face grew serious. The records we accessed during our time with the council suggest they may be even worse. They destroyed 2 advanced civilizations 300 years ago, but they've never encountered humans before. Let's hope that makes a difference, said Admiral Chen. President Kendrick looked out the window at the night sky. Prepare all our forces. If the council agrees to our terms, we'll coordinate with their fleet. If not, we fight alone. William followed her gaze to the stars. Not alone. The Solazari and Dramari will stand with us, and I suspect the Arcturians will too, regardless of the council's decision. The president nodded. Either way, the galaxy is about to learn that humanity doesn't just fight for itself. We fight for all who stand beside us. President Laura Kendrick stood on the viewing deck of the space station Unity, watching as ships from a dozen different species took position around Earth. The sight was both amazing and frightening. The last harvester attack nearly wiped out the Brinari 300 years ago, explained Ambassador Linux of the Arcturians. They eat all living things on a planet, take all valuable minerals and move on. They work as a group mind, adapting to our defenses very quickly. Ambassador Porter nodded grimly. And they're heading for Earth because they're drawn to special technology patterns, answered Ambassador Pell of the Dramari. Your fast progress created a beacon. Also, Earth sits at an important point in space they use for faster travel. The Helix representative, a lower-ranking diplomat named Zik, since Cuzzet had refused to come, clicked his mouthparts nervously. The Council has always united against harvester attacks. Even with our disagreements, we would not allow any inhabited world to face them alone. President Kendrick smiled thinly. How generous. And what does the Council expect in return for this help? Gal 7 rippled forward. Nothing, this is not a trade. The harvesters are a threat to all life. However, the mediator paused carefully. The Council would hope this joint effort might reopen diplomatic talks. Before Kendrick could respond, Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system. Madam President, harvester ships have been spotted, passing Neptune's orbit, hundreds of them. The viewing deck screen turned on, showing the approaching threat. The harvester ships looked like giant metal insects, their hulls covered with random spikes that somehow gave a feeling of ancient evil. They've never attacked with so many ships, Ambassador Linux whispered. This is not normal. President Kendrick turned to face the gathered diplomats. 3 years ago, you invited humanity to join your Galactic Council. When we asked for equal treatment, you offered condescension. When we requested security guarantees, you demanded we give up our weapons. When we sought fair trade, you imposed unfair terms. She gestured toward the viewing screen. Now we face death together. I will not repeat your mistakes. Earth will fight alongside you as equals, not as servants. We will share our new ideas without holding back. And when this threat is defeated, not if, but when, we will rebuild together or not at all. The battle for Earth lasted 7 days. The combined fleet suffered terrible losses, but humanity's unusual tactics proved surprisingly effective against the adaptive harvesters. Earth's quantum disruption technology, developed in secret during their isolation, became the turning point when it was shared with the Allied forces. On the 7th day, as the last harvester vessels were being chased out of the solar system, Admiral Chen stood in the badly damaged command center of the EDS Defiant, looking at the casualty reports with a heavy heart. Was it worth it? Asked Commander Russell, her arm in a bandage, her face showing extreme tiredness. Admiral Chen looked up. Through the window, she could see Earth still shining blue and green below them, surrounded by the remains of human and alien vessels alike, all of which had fought and died together. Ask me again in 50 years, Chen replied softly. But I think today we've proven something important, not just to the Council but to ourselves. What's that, Admiral? That humanity doesn't need to choose between independence and alliance. That we can remain uniquely human while still being part of something greater. She put down the casualty report. The Council needed us as much as we needed them. They just realized their mistake a little late. As if answering her words, a communication came through from Unity Station. President Kendrick's voice was tired but triumphant. The Galactic Council has unanimously voted to offer Earth full membership with all rights and privileges. No conditions, no giving things up, as equals. Commander Russell smiled slightly. Seems like walking away from those peace talks was the best diplomatic move we ever made. Sometimes, Admiral Chen agreed, you have to be willing to walk away from the table to earn your proper seat at it. 2 months later, William Porter stood in the rebuilt Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council. This time, he was not seated at the edge of the room as a guest, but at the main table as Earth's first official council representative. The vote on the Galactic Technology Exchange Program is now open, announced GAL-7, fully recovered from injuries sustained during the battle. Earth has proposed that all member species share their advances for the common defense. William watched as the voting indicators lit up across the chamber. One by one, green lights appeared, even from the Helix Dominion, whose new representative had replaced the disgraced Cuzzet. The motion passes unanimously, GAL-7 declared. Implementation will begin immediately. As the session ended, Ambassador Lennox approached William. A remarkable achievement, Ambassador Porter. From outcast to policymaker in less than a year. William nodded. It shouldn't have taken a near-extinction event to bring us together. Perhaps not, Lennox conceded. But species like individuals sometimes need to face their greatest fears to overcome their smallest prejudices. And what was the Council's greatest fear? William asked. Lennox's expression became thoughtful, that a young, unpredictable species might disrupt thousands of years of established order. She paused. We were right about that. You have disrupted it, but perhaps it needed disrupting. Later that evening, William sent a private message to President Kendrick, still recovering from injuries she had sustained when Unity Station was damaged during the battle. The technology exchange proposal passed, he wrote. The shipyards on Mars are already receiving designs from 7 different council species, and we're sharing our quantum disruption technology with everyone. The president's reply came quickly. Good. And the military independence question? Not even raised, William responded. After seeing Earth's fleet in action, I don't think anyone wants to suggest we disarm anymore. It's a new galaxy, William, the president wrote back, and humanity helped shape it. Not bad for a species they called violent primitives, wouldn't you say? William smiled as he closed the communication. Outside the window of his quarters, ships from a dozen worlds moved peacefully through space, a visible reminder of what could be achieved when different species worked together as equals. Earth had found its place among the stars, not through submission, but through standing firm when it mattered most. The Council had made a mistake in trying to force humanity into a subordinate role. In correcting that mistake, they had not only gained a valuable ally, but saved themselves in the process. And that, William reflected, was a lesson worth learning even for civilizations thousands of years old.